Hey everybody, Tony Johnson here, your customer experience leader. Welcome to Live at 5:30. Today we are going to walk through probably one of, I think, the most important things that you can do for your team, the pre-shift huddle. And I was kind of inspired today about thinking about the next generation of the pre-shift huddle by an article I read on Amazon. And so when I was watching this article today, it was a really interesting piece around how even though they've had to stay open, even though they have been doing tremendous work, even though they've really been a lifeline for a lot of folks who can't get out, Amazon has had to find ways to ensure that they've kept their team safe. And so one of the things that they've done is suspended, they call them the lineup, I call them the pre-shift huddle. And so I think that is probably a great topic for us to talk about, because as many organizations are coming back outside of social distancing, as governments and states and localities and municipalities are all thinking about reopening, in some sense of the word, their business, it's a great time to talk about how we take care of our teams, because this stat always sticks with me too. Companies with a high level of engagement see 21% more productivity than organizations without high levels of engagement. So, those Gallup surveys, and by the way, that is from Gallup, those Gallup surveys that you may do, those touch point surveys, those intercept surveys, those regular interactions you may have with your teams when you're talking about, how are you feeling about things? Do you have a best friend at work is a great question off the Gallup survey. But also, my manager listens, my manager communicates with me, those kind of things. Those are all employee engagement pieces that drive real results. They're not just numbers on a piece of paper. And one of the things that you can do to ensure that high level of team engagement is the daily pre-shift huddle. And unless you think it is simply a restaurant thing, and I know they're a big deal in restaurants, that they call them, the pre-shift meeting or the huddle or the rally. I have seen TSA officials at airports do this. I have seen the Apple store do this. Apparently Amazon does a really nice job with this. But these are typically 5 to 10 minute meetings. They go over the plan for the day. And there's a lot of talk around inspiration, motivation, anything special that might be happening. Great place to cover any rule changes, but also to do some recognition and some inspiration. So there are some really cool things you can do. And so all of these things, if you really think about it, a great pre-shift huddle can be a little bit of training, can be a little bit of recognition, can be a little bit of communication, all things that team members say they crave from their leaders. Now, as we come back in from social distancing, it's not going anywhere for a while. So even companies that are opening up as we come out of isolation are still going to have to figure out how we maintain the right amount of real estate between people so that we don't have a resurgence of the coronavirus. So, I think Amazon has done something interesting. They've done away with the daily pre-shift huddles based on some of the information I've seen, and they are now simply handling it through the staging board. So they may have a pre-shift huddle or a rally or a lineup board where team members can come in, punch the clock, and then go read up on all that information for the day, as opposed to having a live meeting with a leader. So I think that's a great short-term stopgap. But think about what's beyond that. So there are some really interesting apps out there that can be used to sort of facilitate a virtual pre-shift huddle. Maybe look into some of those, but they can get a little bit pricey, I think. So I think one of the things, and this is a kind of medium tech, low investment kind of solution, but pull out that smartphone, and you could actually, just like I'm going live with you every single day at 5:30, that's a fantastic way to make sure that you can actually pull up your very own smartphone. You can go ahead and do it in selfie mode, or you can put it on a little tripod. You can get them from next to nothing on the internet or at your local store. But do your pre-shift huddle to your iPhone and then send it out via text message or email or however you can communicate that, assuming that you've worked that out with HR and the right business processes and those kind of things to make sure that it's okay to send it to people's phones, because you don't want to run awry of any work rules in your particular state or organization. But again, do the pre-shift huddle live on your phone, record it and send it on out. That way people can at least feel that moment with you. A couple of other quick things too as you think about pre-shift huddles. And remember, it's not just enough to say we're just not going to do them, right? That's not a solution. So we have to find creative ways around it. But part and parcel of that, I want you to think about your break schedules, and I want you to think about your break rooms. Because there's probably in your organization, you may find several constituencies that go on break at the same time. You may have to think about how you stagger breaks so that you don't have people clustered around. That's the reason why these pre-shift huddles, which are so impactful but can also be so dangerous, because again, you got people in close proximity, easy to spread something like coronavirus or the flu. So once you've got your break rooms, or so your break strategy with how you've got them spaced out, then I want you to think about your break room itself. Have you socially distanced those pieces? Do you have the chairs the right, level away from each other? But also be sure to think about how your team interacts with each other. I was talking to somebody the other day, and he said, my team, they're like family. They all get back together. They all started coming back to work, and they don't see each other as strangers that they should socially distance away from. They see themselves as family members, as close friends, as well as work colleagues, and so they don't think about staying 6 feet away. But you have to use some of that same kind of logic at first to ensure that people are being safe. So it's a great thing to have a close-knit work group, but there could also be some downside to that when social distancing is something that we all have to do. So remember, these pre-shift huddles are so important, so please don't let them fall off your radar or your calendar, but find a way to do them safely. And remember, as always, I am here for you every day live at 5:30. We are in this together. We are in the middle of the great service comeback. I have to tell you, this is a really exciting time for business as we think about reemerging from isolation and what's that going to mean. A fantastic opportunity to reinvent yourself, a great chance to see about what's next. But the only way it works is if we do it together, we do it in a measured way, and we do it in a way that keeps our customers right there at the center of what we do. So again, I will be here for you tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is appointment television, folks. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. Talk to you tomorrow.